About a year and a half ago, I picked up a Sega Genesis to review the infamous Batman Forever movie licensed game, and some of you may have noticed that I have not reviewed a Genesis game since. This is not for lack of trying. In fact, I picked up several Genesis games either to build a good library or just to have some good review material for a rainy day, only for me to suck at said games or for them to be so incomprehensible without their instructions that I just couldn't figure them out. Like, say, for example, American Gladiators! It's a batch of two-player minigames, but either I can barely get a response out of the buttons, or the few that do work, I have no idea what to do. It doesn't explain anything in-game about how you play. Even the menus control like shit. Start doesn't start the game, it pauses the start screen. You move the cursor on the name entry screen, not with the D-pad, but with Y and that mode shoulder button that nobody uses. How do you mess this up? CyberCop! This is actually a cool primitive first-person shooter, but even after I figured out how the interface works, I don't have the first clue what any of the items are or what I'm supposed to do. I just run around shooting things and finding switches until eventually I run out of ammo, or the game just freezes and saves me the trouble. Abrams Battle Tank! It's not hard to figure out the controls. My problem is you're dumped into an utterly massive map, told to kill 20 enemies, and I just end up wandering around like half an hour, finding nothing. F-22 Interceptor! Planes must have really sucked in the 90s because you can't turn left or right, only roll, and there's a full 1 second delay to all the buttons, and everything is so damn slow! Superman! Well, apparently this Superman can't fly, or shoot heat vision, or use freeze breath, or move fast, or really do anything except charge a super punch and get his ass kicked by robots because his hitbox is too huge. And when he does decide to fly, all the civilians drop rocks on his head. Maybe they know this Superman is an imposter. He does seem to have a P on his chest instead of an S. I seriously might as well be playing as Batman for how limited this game is. Speaking of Batman! I swear you come across a jump that's impossible like 5 minutes in. I can't get over these boxes, I can't grapple over them, I can't slide past them, I can't go back, and an infinite supply of goons won't stop slide kicking me to death. I don't know what to do. Spider-Man and X-Men Arcade's Revenge. How do I get past this first ledge? The halcyon days when a windowsill was enough to stop Spider-Man dead in his tracks. Star Trek The Next Generation. I actually really like this game. It's immersive the way you man the bridge of the Enterprise, but the away team levels are pointlessly massive and take forever and a half to navigate, and for such a long game, I don't think there's any way to save your progress. Clue! I don't know how you screw up Clue, but they did. The information you're flashed every time someone makes a guess is just confusing, like nobody was in this room, or Miss Peacock had the revolver. That tells you nothing. Super Battleship! Might be a decent strategy game, but there's clearly something I'm missing in the shooting segments because I land loads of direct hits and still get my ass kicked. It's becoming clear to me that if I want to actually get some use out of my Genesis on this show, I'm gonna have to break out one of the all-time legendary turkeys of gaming, Shaq Fu. A fighting game licensed on a basketball player where instead of fighting other players or maybe fighting street crime like a superhero, he travels to a parallel plane of existence to fight a mummy. I don't know how this came to be, but since it was published by Electronic Arts, I'm guessing that the explanation is stupid. And wow, this menu music is hot garbage! Quite a large departure from the rollicking theme song of the game's sequel, isn't it? I'm back and about to storm. Shaq Fu, a Legend Reborn. The game has a story campaign that you can only play as Shaq, without using cheat codes anyway. Shaq is traveling through China sightseeing before a big charity game when he runs across some old guy who thinks he's a chosen warrior. He asks Shaq to rescue some kid named Nezu, and then with absolutely zero other context, Shaq is in some alternate dimension called the Second World, picking fights with anonymous magic people for no reason, asking about some person he's never heard of called Set, all with zero explanation. I don't know what this place is, I don't know who any of these people are or why they're here, and I don't know why everyone is so keen to assault an 8-foot black man on sight. And keep in mind, this is not alternate reality Shaq like in Legend Reborn. Apparently, between playing basketball and making rap music, Shaq invented an entire new martial art called Shakido. Also, these games are really big on making fun of Shaq's rap career because there's a character named Diesel whose entire deal is that he's a stupid wannabe rapper Jersey Shore looking dude, and he literally only exists so that Shaq can yell at him for stealing the name of his Shaq Diesel album. Ha ha. Alright, let's see how far I can get into this game before I need to look up a move list. The controls are pretty simple at a glance. Y and Z punch, B and C kick, A does the, quote, boost move. I thought maybe the boost move was some kind of power-up mechanic, but no. Boost move is the run button. Of all the stupid shit! The game's controls are insanely clunky. You have no control over your character's jumping arc, just one incredibly stiff and static leap that covers way too much distance at a time. Your basic movement is very slow, and the boost move has an awkward second-long stopping animation that leaves you wide open anytime you try to use it. And even if you do run up to an enemy's face, the game has you automatically do a throw that deals no damage and just puts you right back to where you started of too far away to hit them. So basically, there's no good way to close a distance with your opponent to land any attacks. You just kind of end up jumping all over creation, hoping you eventually land close enough to deal some damage by pure luck. Oh, and the run only works when it feels like it, because you have to be a set distance that varies for every character. The best strategy that I found, and I'm guessing it only works because I'm playing the easy mode, is to charge forward at your opponent mashing the kick button to pin them against the wall, then duck and nut punch them to death as fast as you can. Behold the true power of Shakido, the Bob Barker technique! He keeps kicking me in the dick! Why? Why does he keep kicking me in the dick? This worked up until I fought some Arabian Prince guy who spams the living hell out of projectile attacks throwing swords everywhere, which forced me to use a continue. Before nut punching him into the wall worked perfectly fine the next round. You can block attacks, but blocking requires moving away from your opponent, which just puts you in deeper shit. And since there are 3 different blocks for high, low, or special attacks, in the immortal words of Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5, but you still take damage. Blocking is a guessing game that I never bothered with. The second island of the campaign is where things start to get out of hand. A cat lady with a crap load of attacks that daze you, a cyborg that spams lasers, bullets, and missiles, a green Skeletor with lightning attacks that basically just hit you wherever you are regardless, and this little shithead Nezu. Nezu here is the game's Sub-Zero clone. Obvious, right? He has a projectile attack that freezes you in place for like 3 seconds. Thing is, though, Sub-Zero's freezing attacks wear off after you take a hit, whereas this douche canoe can land all the hits he damn well pleases and the stun won't wear off early. That's it, you little imp shit. Even if I can't beat you, I can make sure you never reproduce! Funnily enough, though, the main villain's right-hand man, the Beast, this skinless claw guy, he barely seems to do anything. Every time a character takes a hit, the game fills a fury meter that can amp up your attacks when it's full, and Beast's gimmick is that his fury meter is always full. Trouble is, the game's combat is so stiff and lopsided that fury doesn't really seem to do jack. So the game's answer to Goro becomes the game's answer to Dan Hibiki. Also, the game has a little cutscene, I guess you'd call it, of Beast raising a bunch of skeleton warriors to take you down. No such warriors ever appear. Not unless you look up a secret code to trigger an Easter egg minigame. Then you fight the big villain Set Ra, some mummy asshole we know nothing about. Even though I already freed Nezu from the mind control and saved him, Shaq still yells at Set to release him. And then I get my ass handed to me because Set Ra is a spamming dickhole that just hucks a steady stream of projectiles at you. And only after I get a game over does the game see fit to actually tell me how to do one of the special moves, the Shaq Hurricane, an actual projectile attack. Great! Only problem is, Shaq's one projectile attack is so slow to pull off that I can barely hit shit with it. And even though Shaq has like 3 special moves, this is the only one the game ever showed me. And no, his other specials are nothing to write home about either. The game has 3 modes: duel mode, where you fight everyone in a row, story mode, where you fight everyone in a row as Shaq, and tournament mode, which is multiplayer only, even though the game can clearly detect that I don't have a second controller plugged in for the multiplayer. Fortunately, all the characters come unlocked, including 2 exclusive to the Genesis version, since the game can't save data to register unlocks anyway. So naturally, I did a run as the catastrophically overpowered final boss. Come to find out that without looking up special moves, the character's core movesets don't really change much. Set just teleports for runs and spins like a saw blade for a jump attack. That's it. Now, I want you to look really close at this gameplay footage and tell me if anything feels off to you. One of the options in the main menu is to set the game speed for either normal or fast, and for this playthrough as set, I tried setting it to the fast mode, but the game doesn't look all that different from when I was playing normal speed as Shaq, does it? That's because in fast mode, the game cannot maintain a stable frame rate to save its life, so most of the time it plays like normal. Sometimes it'll speed up for brief spurts, like if nobody's jumping or doing anything, and sometimes it actually slows the game down because the game can't keep up with all this action on the screen. Yeah, the Sega Genesis has the processor power to render Sonic the Hedgehog blasting through stages at ludicrous speed, but jumping in Shaq Fu, that's too taxing. That's not the end of the game glitches by a long shot, by the way. There's a code to turn on blood that will sometimes work without entering it. Enemies can stun you if you take a quarter health bar's worth of damage at once, but you can't stun the AI due to a programming error. Sometimes I've caught the game forgetting that the fury meter is a thing. Dashing into an enemy to throw them doesn't always work. The pause button can be misregistered as the run button, and other players way more dedicated than I am have charted character-specific bugs like Shaq dropping his shield at random and so on. Oh, wait, I forgot this is an Electronic Arts game. They're not glitches, they're surprise mechanics! And there's another surprise mechanic that basically renders the game unwinnable, but we'll get to that later. Beating the duel mode gets you one screen with text for that character's ending. Mummy Man heads to our world in disguise, planning to take it over one day. Cat Lady goes back to her home world and, well, does nothing. The old wizard guy stays in wherever the hell we are as its benevolent new ruler, and Shaq, it just tells you to play the story mode, which, crap, I better take another crack at that. Okay, the basic attacks are speed punch kicks and power punch kicks, so I tried the story again, a little more mindful of my attacks, past pure button mashing. Seems like you typically want to stick to speed attacks, only using power moves if you need the range, because in this lopsided combat system, just getting close and laying a beat down before your opponent breaks out of it seems to be the main key to victory. Eventually, I do manage to take down Set Ra and get the game's ending. Shaq returns to the real world with that kid Nezu in tow. Still don't know why any of this crap was important. And Shaq heads to his charity game. But uh-oh, Beast is there and he's trying to play basketball. What wacky hijinks! Doesn't this music just fit the tone of such a zany ending? Why does a game with such a goofy premise have such grim, subdued, and shitty sound design? Still, guess it's time to graduate up to the normal difficulty now. On normal difficulty, the characters mainly just spam special moves, which for some characters just means an endless barrage of cheap projectiles. Colonel, the bionic guy, is a royal pain, but his shit you can actually dodge. Arabian Sword Guy and Beast are the worst. They both have a screen flash move that just instantly and automatically deals damage no matter where you are, and they are not afraid to use this move over and over and over and over and over! The big boob voodoo lady also has a full screen hit attack where she pulls out and stabs a voodoo doll, but it takes her ages to pull this move off, like somebody on the dev team was briefly lucid enough to remember what game balance is! Needless to say, the mystical art of pin to the wall and nut punch doesn't work so well anymore. Cranking the game up to normal also highlights how woefully unbalanced the game's roster is. Some characters barely seem any stronger, some like the rock guy Auroch are so slow they can't do anything, and then some just beat the living man shit out of you with bullet storms of projectiles. Yeah, Beast isn't a joke anymore now that he remembers how to do his own moves. Speaking from past experience, this is around the point where somebody in the comments starts screaming, "Learn the special attacks, get good and stop bitching, you dumbass! Actually learn the special moves and maybe you'll shock less!" Yeah. Funny thing about that, I pulled up a move list and tried the dual mode again with the Beast. Beast has a fireball attack that works with a dirt simple combo of down, forward, kick. Easy to pull off, got it working immediately, and then all of a sudden, it stopped working. Here's the twist. Shaq Fu is so abysmal at actually reading button inputs that 9 times out of 10, the game will just do whatever basic attack is mapped to the controls before it does the special move you just entered. I enter in down, forward, kick, and the game actually has Beast stop to throw a kick, and then it realizes, oh crap, I forgot, that's actually the input to a special move. Shit, okay, there, I did it. I am not joking. The game is bugged to where special attacks only actually work right away if you are obscenely lucky. If you're not obscenely lucky, the game will put a massive delay on all your specials while it slowly tries to process the button inputs correctly, rendering your attacks completely unusable and leaving you stuck wide open to get bitch slapped by your opponent while you wait for them. So that AI that you already can't stun because of a completely unrelated game bug can spam all the projectile attacks at once instantaneously using moves that just flat ass don't work for you at all because the game hates your guts. Yeah, I'm starting to see why Shaq Fu is widely regarded as one of the worst fighting games ever made, because if you bump it above easy difficulty, the AI just flat ass cheats you to death. I did actually beat the normal difficulty though, because it turns out that old wizard character beats people with a stick if he attacks while crouching, and that gives you just enough added range that I was able to cheese the AI into submission and beat the dual mode on normal. All that effort I put into getting all the moves to work, and the whole time I just needed to turn to Kung Pao Enter the Fist. I'm not really qualified to judge whether Shaq Fu is one of the worst games ever. I'm not skilled at fighting games, and wannabe shovelware cash grab fighters seem like they were a dime a dozen around this time in gaming. But with how many basic fundamental glitches are built into the game, from special moves not working to the frame rate running on chaos theory, I can definitely see where those claims come from. The game's premise is just lazy. A celebrity dropped into a generic fighting game he's got nothing to do with, fighting archetypal characters that aren't connected at all with zero backstory to go around. The combat is stiff and clunky at best and glitchy garbage at worst, with very little content and no mini-games or bonus modes. And aside from just the novelty of being called Shaq Fu, it's not even funny. But it at least got an outrageously kick-ass sequel some 20 or so years later, so I guess I can let it all slide.